Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating slice of the cybersecurity world, specifically looking at CompTIA Security Plus Objective 2.3. We're going to map out the modern threat landscape, literally starting with the phones we carry in our pockets, all the way up to those invisible, high-stakes zero-day attacks. So let's just decode this together. But first, I want to ask you an incredibly simple, yet kind of unsettling question. Think about the smartphone sitting next to you right now, or maybe the one in your pocket. Is it actually secure? I mean, we carry our entire lives on these things, right? Passwords, banking apps, personal messages. But as you'll see in just a moment, that tiny piece of hardware is a massive target. And honestly, the vulnerabilities it faces might just surprise you. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Mobile device security weaknesses. 2. Sideloading app dangers. 3. Jailbreaking and the cost of customization. And finally, 4. Zero-day vulnerabilities explained. Starting off with Section 1, Mobile Device Security Weaknesses. When you look at CompTIA's definition here, mobile device vulnerabilities are basically the inherent security flaws living right inside our smartphones, tablets, and portable tech. We're talking about things like insecure data storage, where your sensitive information just isn't properly encrypted, or weak authentication mechanisms that an attacker can easily bypass. And of course, the classic culprit, outdated operating systems. Ignoring those update prompts essentially leaves known backdoors wide open for anyone to walk right through. So, how do we actually fix this? Well, the solutions are super practical. First up, you've got to employ strong access controls. We're talking complex passcodes and biometrics. Second, you absolutely must ensure regular software updates are pushed to the device to patch up those known holes. And if you're looking at this from an enterprise perspective, your absolute best friend is utilizing mobile device management, or MDM, solutions. MDM lets administrators enforce these security baselines across an entire fleet of devices all at once. It really is your first line of defense. Let's move to Section 2, Sideloading App Dangers. Now we're shifting from inherent device flaws to the risks that we actually introduce ourselves. Sideloading is exactly what it sounds like, the practice of installing applications on a mobile device from sources outside the official App Store. Now, think about this for a second. Apple and Google spend millions, literally millions, securing their official ecosystems. When you step outside that walled garden to download an app from some random website, you are completely stripping away all of those built-in manufacturer protections. And honestly, the severity of this threat really can't be overstated, because these sideloaded apps bypass standard security controls. They create a massive blind spot. Look, people usually sideload for convenience, right? Think of those third-party sites offering paid games for free. But that convenience usually acts like a Trojan horse. It masks the hidden danger of unverified malicious code that now has a direct pipeline right onto your personal device. So the crucial point here is that defending against sideloading requires a real two-pronged approach. First, you need the hard technical policies, like using your MDM to strictly restrict sideloading at the device level, so it literally cannot happen. But you also absolutely need the soft approach, educating users. You have to teach people about the risks of unofficial app sources so they actually understand the why behind the policy. Which brings us to Section 3, Jailbreaking and the cost of customization. Tearing those security walls down entirely brings us to the concept of jailbreaking. This is the act of removing the restrictions imposed by the device manufacturer or carrier. And why do people do it? Well, usually to allow for greater system control and to install unauthorized applications. But I really want you to understand that jailbreaking fundamentally breaks the intended security architecture of the device. You are essentially dismantling the locks on your own front door. And this dilemma brilliantly illustrates the whole issue. On one hand, we have the allure. Users want increased customization. They want total, unrestricted control over the hardware they paid for. Makes sense, right? But on the flip side, you have the cost. Achieving that control completely shatters the manufacturer's security model. It heavily, and I mean heavily, exposes the device to potential security threats that would normally just be automatically blocked. To combat these risks, especially in a corporate environment, you can't just cross your fingers and hope users will behave. You have to ensure strict adherence to device usage policies. Furthermore, you must employ security measures that actively detect when a device has been jailbroken and utilize systems that prevent those jailbreaking attempts in the very first place. If your MDM detects a jailbreak, for instance, it should instantly quarantine that device to protect the integrity of your whole network. All right, moving into our final part, Section 4, Zero-Day Vulnerabilities Explained. This right here is the absolute climax of our threat landscape.
A zero-day vulnerability is a flaw disclosed or exploited by an attacker before the software creator can even create a patch to fix the underlying issue. Think about that name for a second. The creator has literally had 0 days to fix it. It's an attack leveraging a complete and total absence of a known fix.
Let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Because the 0-day attack cycle is basically a high-stakes race against time. Step 1, the vulnerability is disclosed or exploited by attackers. Step 2, those attackers inflict massive damage utilizing this completely unpatched flaw. And then comes Step 3. The software creator finally finds out, but they have to take time to develop and release a patch. When you see massive headlines about systems being compromised overnight, like the infamous Pegasus zero-click exploit, it's very often this exact cycle. That gap, that critical delay between the initial exploitation and the eventual release of a patch, that is the danger zone. Even when the software creator knows about the vulnerability, the sheer amount of time needed to engineer a safe fix leaves systems wide open. It's exactly what makes zero-day attacks devastatingly effective and, frankly, incredibly difficult to stop.
So how on earth do you defend against the unknown? Well, you implement zero-day protection by stacking your defenses. First, you use newer operating systems that actually have built-in protection mechanisms. Next, you continually update those operating systems to shrink your attack surface as much as possible. You'll also want to deploy multiple layers of firewalls to trap any unusual activity, and crucially, implement lists of approved applications, meaning your system will only allow known, good apps to run, effectively freezing out any mysterious, unvetted executables.
Take a second to look at how far we've come across this threat landscape today. As we've seen, it stretches from the inherent weaknesses right inside the hardware we carry to the self-inflicted wounds of sideloading and jailbreaks, all the way to the totally unpredictable nature of zero-day exploits. The ultimate takeaway here? Your defense cannot rely on just one single thing. It absolutely must be layered, consistently updated, and fiercely proactive.
Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder. Take a hard look at the systems you manage, or hey, even just your own personal digital habits. Are your current device policies truly strong enough to protect against the unknown? It's a really tough question, but after working through this explainer, you now have the exact framework you need to start answering it. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.